Can Dan Campbell win back the fan base after his questionable coaching decisions? Hello, everyone. My name is Derek, and welcome to Detroit Lions Syndicate. If this is your first time here, we talk all things about the Detroit Lions, and we make videos almost every day. And if you like that type of thing, subscribe, and you can hit the notification bell as well. Very few of you guys have the notification bell rung. That's okay, because a lot of you come back even though you're not notified, and I appreciate that. Just a little brief update about the injuries going on with the Detroit Lions. Dan Campbell, in his press conference today, said that Josh Reynolds was a little further ahead of St. Brown. Reynolds got banged up after he collided with, I want to say it was a running back or receiver in last Sunday's loss against the Minnesota Vikings. Now, he's closer to being back than St. Brown, and St. Brown is closer than Swift. He said that the clouds would have to open, the sun would have to shine, and pretty much everything. Swift would have to say, look, I'm ready to go, and for him to even get out there. So it looks like Swift is a no-go. We'll get that final injury report on Friday. Then it would be Amon-Ra is a little better than Swift, but not as good as Reynolds. Hopefully Reynolds can come out and play because we'll need him to play. Chark also I guess he got banged up, and he's better as well. He should be out there good to go on Sunday. So that means that we have Quintez Cephas, Khalif Raymond, and maybe even get a Tom Kennedy sighting. And Coach Campbell has a lot of faith in Jamal and the running back room that we have. So the loss of Swift, he's not too worried about. They're going to let him rest most likely, and he's looking for that next man up. So he says that we should be just fine. And speaking of Coach Campbell, Dan Campbell knows exactly what the Detroit Lions fans and organization has been through, particularly us as fans, being part of that 2008, the first team in NFL history to lose 16 regular season games. I want to say the 72 Tampa Bay Buccaneers lost 26 in a row, but I think it was a 14-game season back then. So we were the first ones to do it in a 16-game season. And he knows that he's made some pretty bad decisions. He was part of that 2008 team. He didn't play that year. He was on IR, but he was here. I think Dan Campbell spent 2006 to 2008 as part of the Detroit Lions. So he knows what it's like. So when he came in with that kneecap speech, we knew that he got it. Not only being a former player, but being on the roster as well. So Dan Campbell knows exactly what we've been through and what we currently go through. When he came first and part of that initial press conference, he said the wins will come. Well, now the Detroit Lions are honestly ahead of where everybody, even us fans, some of us fans thought they should be. And there have been quite a few of coaching decisions that have made us really kind of question Dan Campbell. The first year, it was his rookie. He was a rookie head coach. But this year, there are mistakes that he really shouldn't be making. Just for the record, I'm going to read some things off. I am not at all on the fire Dan Campbell. I don't even think he's on the hot seat, but I think he needs to do better. So before I get into that, don't think that I'm coming at Dan Campbell any type of way. I just think that this point is good for what we're about to talk about next. I got this information from my buddy, The Dern. This comes from Jeff Rieger's Twitter. Says Dan Campbell called a timeout, allowing Ravens to compose themselves and pick up the 4th and 19. Blamed himself for the Bengals' loss last year. He blamed himself for 4th and 1 in LA. He blamed himself for the Eagles' loss last year. Onside week 1. He hated his own call yesterday. Not great. All those are true statements. I hated the onside kick in week 1. I hated the fact that he sent Austin Seibert out there. So Dan Campbell has made some questionable decisions, some that you could say cost us the game. There are a lot of factors that go into every game. But the thing that I really want to know is with this questionable play calling, does Dan Campbell really understand what we're going through? This comes from Lions Wire. Yeah, listen, I get the road that everybody's been down. Listen, I'm not sweating it. I'm not sweating it. This team's not sweating it. We've got a long season. You look out throughout this league, and it happens this way every year. And I feel like what happens to you early in the season, it really molds who you're going to be as the season goes on and late in the season. Those ones that can endure the adversity of the season, the ups and downs, and just stay in the race are the ones that have success. And that's all we've got to worry about is our own. We've just got to let's clean up the little errors. And I told them, I said, look, failing isn't failure unless you don't learn from it. And so that was a tough one. We're up 2 scores, should have won that game. But you know what? We didn't earn the right to win that game. Minnesota did. And we've got to look long and hard in the mirror to ourselves. And we've got to clean up these errors. And it's not an excuse, but we're still young. And we've got some guys that even though they're not old players, they haven't played a lot of football, or they're not young players that haven't played a lot of football. So we've got to learn from it, and we've got to move on and be better the next time it comes up. But listen, this is not time to go into panic mode. This is not time to worry. This is time to just do what we did from Philly to Washington. Let's just get better. Let's focus on the little details. So that's what it's about. So after the things that we read off in that initial tweet, and based on the words that Dan Campbell said at his press conference, will Dan Campbell learn, and does he really understand what we were going through? Why some fans are screaming S.O.L. I think he kind of does, and he kind of doesn't. I think part of his job is to have the ability to move on. That's one of the things that fans can't have. We don't have that ability. A lot of us don't have the ability to just let stuff go when it's been the same way for years and years and years. So I think he has to understand that we've been through it. He was in Miami, he was in New Orleans, and I understand what he's trying to do, but does he really understand why some of us cry S.O.L? S.O.L is ingrained. It's not easy for everybody to shake after the year we had last year, the Matt Patricia era, the Marty Morningman. It's a lot of history that is on his shoulders that he has to undo. And when he makes bad coaching decisions, it just goes back and takes us back there. Now, I believe in this team, and I believe they're going to turn this thing around. I think they have a good chance to win the next 2 games. We're going to talk about that later this week. But it all starts with Dan Campbell. So let me know in the comments below, based on Dan Campbell's comments, do you really think that he understands S.O.L? For me personally, I think he knows, but he's trying to shake it off, and he can't stay in the past. He has to worry about the future. And if the Detroit Lions are going to be better and help shake that S.O.L, he's got to be focused on what's going to happen and not what already did. Now we're going to go to the segment that I introduced yesterday, bringing in a comment from a viewer. This comment comes from Xander N. How do you feel about Kirby Joseph now having an opportunity to get some huge reps in due to Tracy's season-ending injury? He wouldn't necessarily need to be an every down safety, Deshaun Elliott, since we can do more cover one and man with how well Okudah is locking up top-tier talent. I think Amon-Ra's breakout was inevitable, but I also don't think it's crazy to say that injuries to both Cephus and Tyrell Williams last year helped him do it in such a historic fashion. AG got the most out of practice squad guys last year. I really think Kirby could become a decent ball hawk by year end given the opportunity he has now. Well, shout out to Nick for the question, man, and I think that we're going to see. I think Kirby Joseph, for whatever reason, we didn't really hear about in camp why he wasn't out there. We just heard that he wasn't quite there yet. But now, just like last year, he's going to have to be thrown into the fire, and we're going to see just how good that 3rd round pick is. I agree that he's a ball hawking safety, and I wonder if that's his downfall as well. Whatever reason as to why he wasn't out there, he probably will have to be out there now. I don't know if the Detroit Lions are going to make a move for a safety with the depth that we have. I think you could be right that St. Brown's breakout did have something to do with the lack of receivers that we have, but for some reason, I think he was going to break out anyway. This guy, massive chips on his shoulder, and he was going to get that ball one way or another. As far as Aaron Glenn squeezing the most out of practice squad players, I agree with you as well. We all knew our defense was going to be bad this year. I think the Detroit Lions have given up the most points in the league. I think Aaron's doing a great job with what he has. And speaking of what we have, Anthony Pittman has been elevated to the active roster, with Tracy Walker being placed on season-ending injured reserve. Again, I hope you guys like this segment. My videos might be a tad longer from now on. And let me know in the comments below, should I pick the question or should the viewers pick the question? And we do the most like comment every day. Let me know in the comments below which one you would like to see. And thank you, Nick, for your question. That's fantastic. You could have your question featured on tomorrow's video. If you comment, you got to comment, man. Let's get that interaction up. My name is Derek. This is Detroit Lions Syndicate. I think it's safe to say we can finally move on from Minnesota and look forward to Seattle. You guys are awesome. Take care of yourself. And as always, go Lions.